These are two men who created comedy gold together for nearly 3 decades, only for one heartbreaking moment to reveal the true depth of their friendship. When Oliver Hardy died on August 7, 1957, Stan Laurel made a decision that shocked Hollywood and left fans wondering what could have driven apart one of entertainment's greatest partnerships. But here's the truth that's been misunderstood for over 60 years. Stan Laurel didn't refuse to attend Oliver Hardy's funeral out of anger, pride, or creative differences. The real story is far more heartbreaking and reveals a love between two friends that went deeper than any comedy routine they ever performed. To understand what really happened on that August day in 1957, we need to go back to the beginning of one of Hollywood's most unlikely partnerships. Stan Laurel, born Arthur Stanley Jefferson in the small English town of Ulverston in 1890, was the creative genius behind the duo. Oliver Hardy, nicknamed Babe, was born in Harlem, Georgia in 1892 and became the perfect foil for Stan's methodical madness. Their first encounter was pure accident. Between September 1920 and January 1921, they appeared in the same film called The Lucky Dog, but they weren't even a team yet. They were just two comedians working separately, having no idea they were about to stumble into entertainment history. It wasn't until 1927, when they appeared together in Putting Pants on Philip, that the magic really began. What made Laurel and Hardy special wasn't just their timing or their physical comedy. It was the genuine chemistry between a meticulous perfectionist and a naturally gifted performer. Stan was the workaholic who would stay up all night writing and editing their films, crafting every gag and plot point. Whenever anyone asked Oliver Hardy about a creative decision, he would simply point to Stan and say, "Ask Stan." But Oliver brought something Stan couldn't create on his own, an effortless charm and natural comedic timing that made every routine feel spontaneous. They were opposites in almost every way. Off-screen, they lived completely different lives. Oliver loved golf, Stan preferred fishing. They would work together during the day and go their separate ways afterward. For 20 years, they were essentially colleagues who happened to create magic together. It wasn't until they began touring European cities in 1947 that they spent extended time together and discovered they weren't just comedy partners, they were becoming genuine friends. By the 1950s, both men were dealing with serious health problems that would ultimately destroy their careers and their lives. During the filming of their final movie, Atoll K in 1950, the cracks were already showing. Oliver developed an irregular heartbeat, while Stan experienced painful prostate complications that caused his weight to drop to a skeletal 114 pounds. The film was a disaster, widely regarded as their worst work, and both men knew their time was running out. In 1953, they embarked on what would be their final professional tour together, traveling to the UK and Ireland. The reception they received was overwhelming. In Cove, Ireland, something happened that would stay with them forever. Stan later recalled, "The love and affection we found that day at Cove was simply unbelievable. There were hundreds of boats blowing whistles and mobs of people screaming on the docks. We just couldn't understand what it was all about. And then something happened that I can never forget. All the church bells in Cove started to ring out our theme song, Dance of the Cuckoos, and Babe looked at me, and we cried." But the tour was cut short when Oliver suffered a mild heart attack in Plymouth on May 17, 1954. The writing was on the wall. These two men who had spent decades making the world laugh were running out of time. What happened next reveals the true tragedy of their story. In 1955, Stan suffered a stroke that left him weakened but alive. Meanwhile, Oliver's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Following doctor's orders to improve his health due to a heart condition, Oliver began losing weight at an alarming pace. He dropped over 150 pounds in just a few months, going from over 300 pounds to around 150. His transformation was shocking. The jolly, rotund figure audiences loved had become a gaunt shadow of himself. The weight loss was too much, too fast. Oliver suffered a major stroke on September 14, 1956 that left him bedridden and unable to speak for nearly a year. His wife, Virginia Lucille Hardy, watched helplessly as the man who had brought joy to millions slowly faded away. Some letters written by Stan suggest that Oliver may have been battling terminal cancer, which could explain the rapid weight loss, but the official cause was complications from his extreme dieting. During this time, Stan was dealing with his own serious health issues. He was diabetic, which complicated everything else. He had chronic prostate problems and had to have an ulcer surgically removed from his prostate. The 1955 stroke had left him weak and frail. But despite his own condition, Stan was devastated by what was happening to his partner and friend. On August 7, 1957, following 2 more strokes in early August, Oliver Hardy slipped into a coma and died from cerebral thrombosis at age 65. He had wasted away to just 138 pounds. His longtime friend Bob Chatterton would later say it was heartbreaking to see what had happened to the man they all called Babe. When news of Oliver's death reached Stan, he was inconsolable. This wasn't just the loss of a comedy partner, this was the loss of his dear pal, as he called him. Stan's own doctor took one look at his patient's condition and made a medical decision that would be misunderstood for decades. He advised Stan against attending the funeral due to his own poor health. Stan, weak and grieving, agreed with his doctor's advice, but he said something that revealed the depth of his love for his friend. Babe would understand. Those 3 words carried the weight of 30 years of friendship, of inside jokes, of shared triumphs and failures, of 2 men who had found in each other something they couldn't find anywhere else. Stan's wife and daughter attended the funeral on his behalf, but Stan remained home, too ill and too devastated to say goodbye in person. In a public letter after the funeral, Stan wrote, "I feel lost without him after 30-odd years of close friendship and happy association." It was a simple sentence that captured an enormous loss. What happened next proves that Stan's absence from the funeral wasn't about conflict or indifference. It was about a grief so profound that it changed the course of his life. Despite being only 67 years old and still receiving offers to perform, Stan Laurel made a decision that shocked Hollywood. He would never perform again, not without Oliver. Stanley Kramer offered him a cameo in the 1963 film It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, but Stan declined. He turned down every offer for public appearances, every chance to return to the spotlight. He had no interest in working without Hardy. For 8 years, until his own death in 1965, Stan Laurel honored his friendship with Oliver Hardy by refusing to perform for anyone else. This wasn't stubbornness or artistic integrity, this was love. Stan had found in Oliver something irreplaceable, and he knew that trying to recreate their magic with someone else would be a betrayal of what they had built together. During those final 8 years, Stan lived quietly in his Santa Monica apartment on Ocean Avenue. Dick Van Dyke, who was at the height of his fame with his classic sitcom, spent months trying to find the old comic. No one in Hollywood seemed to know where he was until Van Dyke finally found him listed in the Santa Monica phone book under Stan Laurel. Van Dyke became a close friend during Stan's final years, and Stan would often tell him, "My favorite comedian was Ollie," that he ruined more takes just breaking up and laughing at him. Stan's health continued to decline. The diabetes, the prostate problems, the lingering effects of his stroke, everything was catching up with him. On February 23, 1965, 4 days after suffering a heart attack, Stan Laurel died quietly in his armchair at age 74. His final words were characteristically humorous. He told his nurse that he would not mind going skiing, and she replied that she was not aware that he was a skier. "I'm not," said Stan. "I'd rather be doing that than getting all these needles stuck in me." A few minutes later, he was gone. At Stan's funeral, Buster Keaton delivered a eulogy that put their partnership in perspective. "Chaplin wasn't the funniest, I wasn't the funniest, this man was the funniest." Dick Van Dyke also spoke, and Stan's famous epitaph was revealed. "If anyone at my funeral has a long face, I'll never speak to him again." Even in death, Stan Laurel was still trying to make people laugh. But perhaps the most touching detail about Stan's final years was what he left to Dick Van Dyke, his famous bow tie. It was a small gesture that connected the past to the future, one comedian's way of passing on a piece of the magic he had created with his best friend. The story of why Stan Laurel refused to attend Oliver Hardy's funeral is really the story of a friendship that transcended show business. These weren't just 2 men who worked well together, they were partners in the truest sense, each incomplete without the other. When people use the word refused, they misunderstand what really happened. Stan didn't refuse anything. He was physically unable to attend, emotionally devastated, and medically advised against it. But more than that, Stan understood something that Oliver would have understood too. Their partnership wasn't just about being in the same room or going through the same motions. It was about creating something together that neither could create alone. When Oliver died, that creative partnership died with him. Stan's refusal to perform again wasn't stubbornness, it was respect. In 1961, 4 years after Oliver's death, Stan received an Academy Honorary Award for his creative pioneering in the field of cinema comedy. The award was accepted by Danny Kaye because Stan was too ill to attend the ceremony. Even in recognition of his individual achievements, Stan couldn't separate himself from the partnership that had defined his life. Today, their legacy lives on in ways that would have amazed both men. There are 3 Laurel and Hardy museums around the world. They're featured on the cover of the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. In 2005, a UK poll ranked them as the top comedy double act and 7th overall among comedians. Films like Stan and Ollie in 2018 introduced their story to new generations. But perhaps the most fitting tribute to their friendship came from Oliver Hardy himself, long before either man knew how their story would end. When asked about their success, Oliver once said, "The world is full of Laurel and Hardys. I saw them all the time as a boy at my mother's hotel. There's always the dumb guy who never has anything bad happen to him, and the smart guy who's even dumber than the dumb guy, only he doesn't know it." What Oliver was really describing was the chemistry between two people who complete each other, who bring out something in each other that neither possesses alone. That's what Stan Laurel lost on August 7, 1957, and that's why he could never perform again. It wasn't about the business of comedy, it was about the heart of friendship. The truth behind Stan Laurel's absence from Oliver Hardy's funeral isn't a story of conflict or artistic differences. It's a story of love, loss, and loyalty that lasted until the very end. When Stan said Babe would understand, he was right. Oliver Hardy would have understood that true friendship sometimes means knowing when to say goodbye, even when you can't be there to say it in person. In the end, Stan Laurel's greatest performance wasn't in any of their 107 films together. It was in the 8 years he spent after Oliver's death, honoring their partnership by refusing to cheapen it with imitation. That's not the story of a man who refused to attend a funeral. That's the story of a man who loved his friend so much that he spent the rest of his life proving it. The heartbreaking truth behind why Stan Laurel never attended Oliver Hardy's funeral has been misunderstood for over 60 years. When Babe Hardy passed away on August 7, 1957, his comedy partner's absence shocked Hollywood and left fans questioning what could have destroyed one of entertainment's greatest partnerships. But the real story isn't about anger, pride, or creative differences. It's about a love between two friends that ran deeper than any comedy routine they ever performed together. For nearly 3 decades, Laurel and Hardy created comedy gold that still makes audiences laugh today, starting from their accidental first meeting in The Lucky Dog between 1920 to 1921. Stan Laurel, the creative genius from England, and Oliver "Babe" Hardy from Georgia, formed an unlikely partnership that would define slapstick comedy for generations. Their journey from 2 separate comedians working in the same film to becoming an inseparable duo reveals the foundation of a friendship that would ultimately lead to one of the most misunderstood moments in Hollywood history.